She wasn't visiting her mother. And I only found out because her ill mother posted beach photos from a vacation she was never supposed to be on. But the worst part? That wasn't even the lie that broke everything. Because she wasn't just lying to me. She was building a second life. With another man who also thought she was his fiancée. We had a system. Simple. Predictable. Safe. I was 29. She was 27. We did not live together full time, but the rhythm never broke. Every Monday at 8:15 she would zip her small black bag in the hallway, check her phone once, and kiss me on the cheek. Then she would walk out the door without looking back. By 9:40 the train would leave the station. She always sent the same message from the platform. Same place. Same routine. I will call when I get there. I believed her because nothing ever slipped. Her clothes smelled of the same detergent when she returned on Thursday nights. Her stories matched the photos she sent. Her mother's pale blue kitchen tiles at 1922. A half-eaten bowl of soup at 25. The old television flickering with the evening news at 21:47. The timestamps lined up. The light in the windows looked right for that time of year. On Wednesdays, she would call at exactly 22:30. The connection was always clear. In the background, I could hear the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of floorboards. Once I heard her mother cough, a dry, familiar sound. It never varied. I kept our apartment exactly as she left it. Her spare charger stayed plugged in by the bed. Her half-used lotion bottle remained on the bathroom shelf with the cap twisted the same way. At 23:40, I would turn off the lights and lie down, knowing the weekend would reset everything. Nothing fell off. No new passwords. No sudden silences. No extra mileage on her car when I checked the odometer on Sunday evenings while she showered. Yet every Thursday when her key turned in the lock at 19:55, I noticed the same small thing. The hem of her coat carried a faint trace of cigarette smoke. She did not smoke. Her mother had quit 15 years ago. I never mentioned it. She would hang the coat, smile the same tired smile, and unpack the bag while I watched from the kitchen. The clothes inside always looked freshly washed. The bag itself felt slightly heavier than it should on those return trips, as if something small and solid had been added during the 4 days away. At 23:12 that night she would fall asleep first, breathing steady and slow. I would lie awake until 1:07, staring at the ceiling, replaying the timestamps from the photos she had sent. They matched. They always matched. But the smoke on the coat never did, and the weight of the bag kept changing, week after week, in ways too small for anyone else to notice. I told myself it was nothing. Until the Monday she left at 8:15 and forgot her second phone in the drawer beside the bed. The one she never mentioned owning. It started with something stupidly small. Her mother's social media profile appeared in the People You May Know section at 23:17. I was scrolling in bed, thumb moving without thought, when the thumbnail stopped me. A sunlit beach. 2 colorful cocktails on a wooden table. Her mother smiling wide, skin tan, eyes clear. No hospital gown. No pale face. Just health and salt air. The caption sat underneath in neat white text. Finally feeling better. Needed this reset. The post was dated 3 days earlier. I stared at the timestamp. 14:42 on Wednesday. The exact afternoon my girlfriend had called from the supposed hospital, voice low, saying her mother had been admitted again for tests. I remembered checking the clock then, 15:08. I scrolled back through the profile. Older posts showed the same woman in the same kitchen I had seen in the photos my girlfriend sent. But here she stood on a resort balcony at 11:55 2 weeks prior, holding a yoga mat. Another image captured her laughing at dinner the night before that, wine glass in hand. The hospital story had come on Monday at 19:40. My girlfriend had packed faster than usual that morning, mentioning sudden chest pain and an overnight stay. I had nodded, offered to drive her to the station. She had refused, same as always. I refreshed the post again at 23:41. Still there. Still recent. The likes showed friends commenting on how glad they were to see her looking so well. One comment mentioned the resort name. I opened a new tab and searched it. 4-hour drive from our city. Popular for weekend getaways. My thumb hovered over the share button for 3 full seconds, then I closed the app. At 03 I opened it again. The photo was still loaded. The cocktails looked fresh. condensation on the glasses. The date had not changed. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe the post was scheduled. Maybe the account was hacked. Maybe the mother had recovered faster than expected and decided to celebrate. But the beach photo had been taken during the exact hours my girlfriend claimed she was sitting beside a hospital bed. I set the phone face down on the nightstand at 0:19. The room felt quieter than usual. From the drawer beside the bed, the second phone she had forgotten on Monday still sat untouched. I did not open the drawer. Instead, I lay there until 1:52, eyes fixed on the ceiling, listening to the low hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. The weight of her bag on Thursday nights suddenly felt heavier in memory. And the trace of cigarette smoke on her coat now carried a new question. What else had lined up perfectly while none of it was real? I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started checking small things while she slept. Nothing obvious. Just patterns. Patterns don't lie. At 1:34 on a Tuesday night, I opened the location-sharing app she had insisted we both keep active. Her dot sat steady in the city where her mother supposedly lived. But the last message she had sent me at 22:12 carried a 2-minute delivery delay. The cell towers in that neighborhood never caused delays. I had tested it myself weeks earlier. I closed the app and waited until her breathing settled into its deep rhythm. The next night at 0:47, I slid her laptop closer on the kitchen table. She had left it open on the booking confirmation page. I scrolled through the email folder labeled Travel. 14 tickets over the last 3 months, all paid in cash. Departure stations changed every week. One left from the main terminal at 9:12. The next from a smaller station 40 minutes away at 8:55. Destinations rotated between 3 different towns. None of them matched the address she had given me for her mother's apartment. I took screenshots at 1:03, then deleted the history and closed the lid exactly as I had found it. By Thursday, the rotations felt deliberate. 3 locations, 3 separate routes, all within a 2-hour radius. None of them overlapped with the photos she sent of the pale blue kitchen. At 23:19 on Friday, I waited until she stepped into the shower. I picked up the folded paper with her mother's number from the drawer where she kept emergency contacts. The line rang once. Then it went to voicemail. No greeting. No name. Just a flat automated voice saying the mailbox was full. I called again at 23:22. Same silence. The number had been disconnected for at least a month, according to the recording that finally played on the 3rd attempt. I placed the paper back exactly where I found it and wiped the screen of the landline. The following Monday at 8:15, she zipped her bag as usual and left without looking back. I stood at the window until her car disappeared around the corner. Then I opened the second phone I had taken from the drawer the week before. It powered on with a different pin pattern. The contacts list held only 3 numbers. None of them belonged to her mother. One repeated across several outgoing calls made every Wednesday at 21:40, the same time she used to call me from the supposed hospital room. I set the phone down at 8:37 and stared at the empty hallway. The cigarette smoke on her coat now had a possible source. The extra weight in the bag could have been something carried between those 3 rotating locations. The beach photo of her healthy mother fit somewhere in the gaps between the train tickets and the dead voicemail. I still told myself there had to be an explanation. But the patterns kept tightening, and the disconnected number sat in my mind like a fracture that refused to close. Because if her mother was real, why could no one reach her? And why did every trip now feel like it was leading somewhere I had not been allowed to see? I pulled the flight records at 2:14 on a Wednesday night. I do not know why I started there. Maybe instinct. Maybe the rotating train tickets had left too many gaps. I used the booking emails from her shared cloud folder, the one we once kept for household bills. The passenger names matched hers on 3 flights, but the departure airports did not. She had told me she took the 9:12 regional train every Monday. Instead, the records showed a 10:45 flight out of the international terminal to a city 4 hours in the opposite direction. I cross-checked the return legs. Different routes each week. Different arrival times. None aligned with the station she claimed to leave from. The layovers added extra hours that the photos from her mother's kitchen never accounted for. At 3:07, I opened the shared cloud drive again. An old folder labeled Receipts, Joint, still synced from last year. I scrolled past utility bills until I reached the most recent upload. A hotel confirmation sat at the bottom, timestamped 11/22 the previous Friday. One king room booked for 4 nights, paid in cash at checkout. The name on the reservation was not hers. It was a man's name. The same name repeated on every weekly booking for the last 11 weeks. I enlarged the document at 329. Same hotel chain. Same property in the city her flights landed in. Check-in every Monday at 14:30. Check-out Thursday at 11 o'clock. The exact window she was supposed to be at her mother's bedside. I sat back and let the screen glow against the dark kitchen. The second phone in the drawer had called that same city on 3 separate Wednesdays. The cigarette smoke on her coat now carried the faint scent of hotel lobby air freshener in memory. The patterns locked together at 3:51. The beach photo of her healthy mother. The disconnected voicemail. The rotating destinations. All of them fed into one fixed point. That hotel room under his name. She was not maintaining one lie. She was maintaining 2 full schedules. 2 sets of stories. 2 versions of her week that never touched. He thought she was his fiancée. The reservation notes listed a special request for early check-in because my fiancé arrives late from work. The words sat there in plain text. I closed the laptop at 4:12 and left it exactly where I had found it. The bag she carried every Monday now felt heavier for different reasons. The extra weight could have been gifts, or rings, or whatever sealed the story she told him between those 4 walls. I lay down beside her at 4:37 while she slept on, breathing steady and slow. Everything had reassembled into something I could not unsee, and the second phone still waited in the drawer with unanswered calls to the man who believed she belonged to him. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed until 4:58, phone screen glowing against my knees. Every Monday kiss at 8:15 replayed in silence. Every story about the hospital at 19:40. Every photo of the pale blue kitchen sent at 21:47. The gestures looked identical now, timed to the minute, practiced until they felt effortless. At 5:12 I opened the second phone again. The contact list still held only 3 numbers. I copied the one called most often and pasted it into a new message on my own device. The text I typed was short. It asked whether he thought he was the only one she was planning a future with. I hit send at 5:19. The reply appeared at 5:21. We're getting married next spring. Why would you ask that? I read the line 3 times. The screen brightness burned into my eyes. No hesitation in his words. No confusion. Just certainty about a wedding date 4 months away. I set both phones down at 5:37 and walked to the window. Outside, the streetlights still glowed orange. Her car sat parked exactly where she had left it the night before. The same black bag waited zipped in the hallway for the next departure. By 6:14, the pieces locked into place with mechanical precision. The rotating flights fed into his city. The hotel room under his name held the same 4-night window she claimed for her mother. The disconnected voicemail protected the gap between us. The healthy beach photos kept her mother conveniently absent from any real check. She existed in both worlds at once. Perfectly scheduled. One life ended at 11 o'clock on Thursday mornings when she checked out of his hotel. The other restarted at 19:55 when her key turned in my lock. I returned to the bed at 6:42 and watched her sleep. Her breathing remained steady, undisturbed. The same rhythm I had counted for months. She was not confused. She was not overwhelmed. She moved between the 2 realities with the calm control of someone who had measured every variable. Timetables. Excuses. Emotional tone. Even the faint cigarette scent that never belonged in either story. At 7:08 I stood up again and opened the drawer where the spare charger stayed plugged in. The cord lay coiled exactly as always. But the second phone now carried his reply inside it. And the wedding date sat in my mind like a second clock ticking alongside hers. She had perfected the system. The only question left was how many other details I had missed that kept both lives running without collision. I waited for her return on Thursday at 19:55. The key turned in the lock exactly on time. She stepped inside with the same black bag over her shoulder, coat still carrying the faint trace of cigarette smoke. Her face held the usual tired half-smile. Eyes calm, hair tucked behind one ear. She set the bag down by the door and walked straight to the kitchen as if the week had unfolded like every other. At 23, she opened the refrigerator and scanned the shelves. Her movement stayed fluid. unhurried. She glanced over her shoulder once, the same questioning look she always gave when deciding dinner. I stood in the doorway and watched without speaking. At 2012, I placed the laptop on the table and opened it. The screen lit up with the flight records first, then the hotel receipts under his name, then the screenshots of his reply about the spring wedding. I laid the second phone beside them, screen facing up, his last message still visible. She stopped moving. Her hand rested on the edge of the counter. No sharp breath, no step backward, just silence that stretched until 2017. Then she exhaled slowly, shoulders dropping a fraction, the way someone does after a long shift. She looked at the evidence for another 30 seconds. Her gaze moved across each document without hurry. When she finally lifted her eyes to mine, the expression was not panic. It was something flatter, almost resigned. She spoke one sentence at 2019. The words landed flat in the quiet kitchen. You were never supposed to find out this way. I asked how long at 2021. She answered without pause. Almost the whole time. The mother story had been cover from the beginning. A stable, repeatable excuse that let her rotate between the two cities without raising questions. The hospital visits, the overnight stays, the photos from the pale blue kitchen, all fabricated to fill the gaps. The other man existed on the exact same timeline, same promises, same future planned in parallel, same illusion maintained with identical care. She stood there at 2024 and stated it plainly. She had not thought the two lives would ever overlap. The sentence came out like a minor scheduling error, not betrayal. Just misalignment in the calendar she had built so carefully. I closed the laptop at 2029. The click echoed louder than it should have. She remained by the counter, hands now resting flat on the surface. The black bag still waited untouched by the door. The coat still hung on the hook with its faint smoke scent. Everything she had balanced for months now sat exposed under the kitchen light. Yet her posture stayed composed, as if the system could still be adjusted with one more careful explanation. The only detail she had not addressed was what else she had kept hidden inside the rotations that neither of us had seen. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I simply stood up at 2031, picked up my keys from the bowl by the door, and walked out. The black bag still rested untouched where she had set it. Her coat still hung on the hook. She remained by the counter, hands flat on the surface, watching me leave without a word. The hallway light clicked off behind me at 2033. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. Each step echoed in the empty stairwell. Outside, the night air felt sharper than usual. My car sat under the street lamp where I had parked it that morning. I got in at 2037 and drove without a destination. The worst part was not the other man. It was the structure. Two separate calendars running side by side for months. Two sets of lies told with the same calm voice. Two futures she had sketched out in parallel, each one complete and convincing. Both of us had believed we occupied the center of her life. I stopped at a red light at 2051. The dashboard clock glowed green. In my mind, the flight records replayed, different airports, different departure times, all feeding into the hotel room booked under his name. The disconnected voicemail. The rotating train tickets that never matched any real address. The photos of the healthy mother on the beach sent while she claimed to be at a hospital bedside. Every element had been placed with precision. No loose threads. No sudden changes in behavior. Only the faint cigarette smoke on the coat and the extra weight in the bag had hinted at movement between worlds. I turned onto the highway at 21.4 and kept driving north. The city lights thinned behind me. At 21:27 I pulled into an empty rest stop and cut the engine. The silence pressed in. I sat there until 22:13, staring at the steering wheel, replaying the moment she had exhaled and spoken that single sentence about how I was never supposed to find out this way. She had treated the overlap like a minor scheduling conflict. Not a fracture, not a betrayal. Just two carefully maintained systems that had finally collided. I started the car again at 22:41. The road ahead stayed dark. In the rearview mirror, the city had already disappeared. Two full relationships. Two complete narratives. Two men convinced they were the only one. And somewhere behind me, in the apartment I had just left, the system she had perfected continued to tick. The only unknown was how many other small details she had already prepared to repair the breach before I returned. People think betrayal is loud. It isn't. Sometimes it's routine. Weekly trips. Normal goodbyes. Predictable patterns that slowly become a system of lies you don't notice until it's too late. I didn't lose her in one moment. I lost her in pieces, over months, while everything still looked normal. And the scariest realization? She didn't slip. She maintained it. Perfectly. Until the systems collided, and both versions of her life finally crashed into each other.